Do you usually study quite hard but you aren't satisfied with the results? Do you feel that there is more potential in you and you want to unlock it? Do you want to gain more confidence? Then this podcast is for you. Congratulations on acknowledging that you can do better. Most people don't bother to recognize their own limits. That's why they spend their entire life stuck in one spot. But that's not you. You want to move forward. You are constantly looking for better and better versions of yourself. And for that, you deserve a big round of applause. Now let's get down to improving the way you learn the language. The way you learn now probably looks something like this. In your textbook, you get a list of words that you need for the next text. You go through these words until you feel familiar enough with them, then you read the text, you make some exercises, you answer a couple of questions to your teacher, and then you move on to the next set of words and to the next text. But after a couple of days, you find out that you remember just a tiny fraction of what you have learned before. If you use an app like Hello Chinese or Duolingo for Chinese learners, it is actually very similar, only digital. You swipe through the content, you listen to stuff, you pick correct answers, you complete the dialogues, you translate some sentences, and you feel like you are being active because of all the clicking and all the translating and other activities. When you are inside the app, you feel the progress. You feel that you are moving somewhere. But if someone was to ask you on the street how to get somewhere, there would be a lot of going on. Because despite all of your activity, you didn't gain the active skills. Why? It is easier just to consume the content, just to slide through the content, to rely on the textbook all the time. With this approach, you are like a Netflix user. You have access to all these amazing shows, movies, but as soon as you won't be able to pay the monthly fee for any reason, you completely lose the access. Nothing stays with you. And it's the same with your knowledge. As soon as you lose the access to your textbook or to your notebook, very little stays with you, because very little has been stored in your memory as active skills. So, the alternative is pretty simple. Instead of renting the movies from Netflix and renting the knowledge from the textbook, you want to own it. You want to store it on your hard drive. The way to do that is through focus, reduction, and changing your attitude from a consumer to what I call a language hero. I will explain what I mean by focus and reduction in a bit. First, let me show you the difference between a casual learner and a language hero. Casual learners might slip through so many words and so many texts. They might even be able to read pretty complicated texts. But when they are supposed to form a sentence on their own, they are totally lost. Even after years of studying, I have seen this so many times, and it was always so sad. Something like that is unacceptable to the language hero. A hero needs to be battle ready, and the language hero needs to be conversation ready. Being conversation ready means that only the knowledge that is usable here and now, independently of a textbook or a notebook, counts. Here is what you need to do as a language hero. Instead of superficially sliding through many words and long texts, pick one sentence. That is the reduction and focus. Understand the sentence. Memorize the sentence. And don't leave it until you are 100% sure that you remember it by heart for this moment. To remember it in a long run, you will need to refresh it later. But for now, you just want to make sure that you can say the sentence over and over again without looking at it. This is the process of storing the information on your hard drive. With every repetition, you make the pathway deeper and deeper. You probably don't own it yet, because you will have to refresh it later, but you are much closer to owning it. Now let me tell you why we put our focus on the whole sentence and not just an individual word. Our mind encounters enormous amounts of data every day, and it can only store a tiny fraction of it. It needs to get rid of what it considers useless and keep only what it considers highly useful. This data filtration happens when we sleep in the part of the brain called hypothalamus. And it's not just the usability of the information, but also the emotional charge of the information. If the information is associated with high levels of stress, fear, or happiness, on the other hand, the likelihood of remembering is also much higher. But now we will focus on the usability part. So if the information is useful, there is a much higher chance that our mind will keep it. And now ask yourself, how useful is an isolated word? Do we speak in words or in sentences? It has been a long time since we spoke in isolated words. So, when our brain sees the sentence, it sees a tool that can help it get what it wants or needs, something that can even help it or us survive. On the other hand, when our brain sees an isolated word, it usually doesn't see a tool. It can become a tool, but the word as it is just a random information, just about as valuable as a picture of an old lady crossing the street that we saw in the morning. That means that after the late night data filtration, we won't remember neither the image of an old lady nor the isolated word. Unless, and there is a big important unless, you learn the words using the method of associations. And Chinese is just perfect for that. You see, our brain is one huge network, and networks are based on connections and associations, and we can benefit from that. This applies especially to people who learn Chinese, because one character is a part of many words, so we can learn words in interconnected groups. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you came across the word 连接, a connection. So you learn the word, and when you are learning it, you analyze what 连 and what 接 mean individually. You find out that 连 is an idea of connecting two things together, and 接 is an idea of generally connecting with something, accepting something, and so on. And simultaneously, you can learn other words with 接, such as 直接, directly, 接近, to approach, 接受, to accept, and so on. That doesn't mean that you should try to remember all of these words by heart. It only means that when you put your focus on these connections, you see the connections, it will be much easier for you to remember the words eventually, gradually, naturally. And when you combine these two methods, learning words in connections and learning them in sentences, with the approach that you don't want to just superficially rent the knowledge from the textbook, but that you want to own it, then you will be practically unstoppable. And as you obviously are a person that is looking for better ways how to improve their life and their learning, let me give you one more tip how to boost your skills and your confidence. Using the associative method and learning whole sentences are two key principles, but they aren't enough. You need to refresh what you learn. Imagine that after you have dug the pathway to store the information in, and you stored it You left and it got covered in snow. You can't see the information anymore. You can't read it. So you need to refresh it, to bring it back to your consciousness by repeating it several more times after a couple of days. Great thing is that with every refreshing session, the refreshing gets easier and easier. And after a couple of times, you really own the sentence. It has been safely stored on your hard drive. And I can guarantee you that this feeling of owning the skill, of owning the sentence, is really amazing, and it boosts your confidence. Not just the language confidence, but the overall confidence. You simply feel great about yourself and you deserve it. You earned it. So, owning the sentences, learning with associations, and repetition. These are the key ingredients for your powerful learning cocktail. And to make this cocktail even better, just add the final ingredient. Make it fun, make it vivid. Use different sources, movies, animations, podcasts, read interesting stories, communicate with AI chatbots, create your own flashcards, simply be creative and resourceful. I bet that you can feel all the positive energy of this approach. That is your inner self telling you, yes, finally, that is what I want. So just follow this instinct. And by the way, I have created a program called Powerful Characters that is based on the principles we were discussing in this podcast. The program combines printed textbooks called Magic Playbooks because they are magical, with a digital layer that is full of interactive minigames, amazing original animations, quizzes, and so on. It is a unique experience, and you are more than welcome to see it for yourself. Just go to the description below this video and click on the link. Bye!